Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Co-Host, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. You know, it's really a book that warms my heart in many ways. But one of them is that, you know, I've said on this show a million times that this left-right divide that the whole world is put into is phony. And you really elucidate why that's a phony game. And you use the terms upists and downists. And the upists are the people, the elite, the handful, what I call them, the handful of billionaires that actually control things, the WEF, the Bilderbergs, the people like that. And then there's everybody else. And, well, I like how you, and there really is a cabal or a society of the haves, the upists, as you referred to them in your book, that really do want to control everything, and they've been doing it for a long, long time. And let me just read a bit from your book. On page 31, you say, you actually quote Carol Quigley, who Bill Clinton actually quoted, and she says, the argument that two parties should represent opposed ideals and policies, one perhaps of the right and the other of the left, is a foolish idea, acceptable only to doctrinaire and academic thinkers. Instead, the two parties should be almost identical so that the American people can, quote, throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. And that's exactly the world we live in. And that's like been the raison d'etre of this show, is to make people realize that meet the new boss, same as the old boss, right? And that they're neither of them are going to give you affordable health care. Neither of them are going to make sure that you're taken care of, the workers are taken care of. And said they're both in bed with the corporations. They're both in bed with the military. Trump's ending a war in Ukraine, and he's trying to start another one in Yemen and Iran, which could be easily World War III because Iran is aligned with Russia. And so George Carlin had talked about, we have the illusion of choice. And that's exactly what Carol Quigley was saying. We have to have two parties to give people the illusion of choice. And every 4 years they get to throw the bums out, but we just replace them with the same bums that are controlled by the same people. Right now, Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing a nationwide tour, and all of a sudden they're fighting the oligarchs. Now, they weren't fighting the oligarchs for the last 4 years, even though more billionaires, almost twice as many billionaires backed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as backed Donald Trump. So they weren't fighting those oligarchs, right? And here it is, right? So there they are on. Bernie tweets this out. Oh, look, Trump. So it's called Fight the Oligarchy. They're on a Fight the Oligarchy, and they're bragging about how much more popular they are than Trump was, even though they're lying about the seats and they're lying all the way through it. And Brianna Joy Gray, who used to be Bernie Sanders' press secretary, tweeted this out, retweeted Bernie Sanders' tweet, and she says, this is going to seem sinister when they tell these people to vote for oligarchs in 2028, just like they did in 2020 and just like they did in 2024. And so that's so in fact, let me just show you here how this woman, I think, used to be a Democrat, and she kind of exposes this lie on Fox. Let's listen to it.
There is such an irony to Democrats talking about oligarchy because, of course, for every one billionaire that backed President Trump, Kamala Harris had 2. 9 of the 10 richest counties in America are represented by Democrats. 65% of Americans making over $500,000 a year today are Democrats. 75% of hedge fund managers who make political donations donate to Democrats, and 95% of political donations from the top 3 management consulting firms go to Democrats. Meanwhile, President Trump absolutely crushed with Americans who make under $100,000 a year. The Democrats are the party of the wealthy. And Donald Trump is representing the working class because he simply lifted the pro-worker elements of the Democrats' agenda when they abandoned the working class to cater to their rich base. This is all performance art. And what's so upsetting about it is they are being paid by the American people to serve them, and they are doing nothing of the kind.
So she's got a lot right there, and she gets a lot wrong. And the wrong part was she said that Donald Trump is he picked up lip service. He picked up the words, the verbiage that the Democrats used to use. But of course, he's not doing that, right? Of course, he's there to give a tax cut to millionaires and billionaires. He's there to make sure the military-industrial complex gets their cut, Wall Street gets their cut. And, whatever happened to no tax on tipped wages, whatever happened to no tax, like that's not the first thing they're doing at all. And of course, they're not cutting the Pentagon. And this isn't a new game. So she's right about that. The Democrats are now the party of the rich, and it's flipped to where workers are voting for Donald Trump, and not because Donald Trump has done anything to actually look out for them, but because they've got nowhere else to go. And Donald Trump actually offers them rhetorically an alternative to the Democrats, but he doesn't in substance offer them an alternative to the Democrats. And that's what you talk about in this book, right?
Essentially, yes. And I think you're right. She got a lot right there, including it's all performance art. I'll just extend that, to both sides of the bird of prey. Both wings of the bird of prey are attached to the same bird of prey, and they are preying on you. And just as an example of that, I mean, for example, hey, we're taking back the Panama Canal, America first, yay, yay, yay.
Who did they give it to?
Yeah, who was behind that deal? Who got on the phone with Trump in his first days in office to say, "Hey guys, let's do this. Let's cut a deal here." Oh, Larry Fink, BlackRock. Yay. Yay! BlackRock took over the Panama Canal.
So we didn't take it over. Better. We didn't take it. The United States, the people, the workers, they gave it to BlackRock.
Yep.
As if they need
America first.
Yeah. Because they need more power.
Right. So it is performance art. It's like professional wrestling. Or I liken it to The Matrix. You'll remember back in The Matrix, they said that the first iteration of The Matrix was one where you got anything you wanted anytime. The robots made people believe that they were, living in this wonderful utopia and you could get anything you wanted. People would pull themselves out of that matrix because they couldn't believe it. They had to make it more and more realistic so people would want to stay in. Put some hardships in there, put some things, put some struggles, so that you could finally get a system where people will want to stay in the matrix. I think that is essentially the governing systems that have been going throughout history. And you've had all these different types of government systems that have come along, but democracy, the wonderful, hey, you get to put your vote in the slave suggestion box once every few years. That's your power. And that's the thing that you can do to change the world and blah, blah, blah. And they give that to you so that you not only stay in the system, but stay invested in the system. And unfortunately, what is the result of that? As I say, the stakes keep rising and rising as more and more power accrues in the hands of this executive presidency, to the point where it's a life and death matter. We have to have that seat of power, and we will do anything to get it. And suddenly, half of the population becomes your mortal enemy. It's those people. It's my neighbor is the reason my life sucks. It has nothing to do with the people at the top. It's the people around me, and we got to fight them. That is the system that they've gotten us into. And so when I'm talking about up-down politics, believe it or not, I'm sure this will surprise you. I was a bit of a science nerd when I was growing up. And I remember, when I first started to think about multi-dimensional physics, like what does it mean to have more than 3 spatial dimensions? And they're talking about tesseracts and hypercubes and all this stuff. But one simple explanation comes from, for example, Carl Sagan presented this, talking about flat land and the idea of these people who live in a totally, completely 2-dimensional space. And you have these like squares moving around as Sagan was demonstrating on his desk, and they could interact with each other, but they had no concept of this up and down dimension. And suddenly something comes from the upper dimension into their world, and they can only perceive it in their two-dimensional way, and it can move around in ways that they can't comprehend because there is no up and down. There's only left and right. So what on earth? How did this thing appear? Suddenly, when you go to 3 dimensions, it's like, oh, I see what's happening. I understand what's happening. This object came down into flatland from the 3rd dimension. Well, in the same way, politics. The only thing we ever talk about now is left and right, and I guess center, but it's a line. All of the political universe is a straight line, and that's the only thing that we can talk about and the only way we can perceive it. And so suddenly when things start moving around in ways that we don't understand, and hey, that guy said he was on our side, but suddenly he's on the other side, and all of this stuff, what's going on? We need another dimension in order to understand what's happening. So if we add the up and down dimension, suddenly we start to understand the political world in a way that makes sense. Oh, I get it. There's authoritarians who want more centralized oligarchical power. And that means there must be a down direction. People who don't want that. People who want more power decentralized down to the local level, down to the individual. So there's suddenly a different dimension that's operating here. And we can better understand that our mortal enemies who are oppressing us are not your neighbor who voted the wrong way. It's the people at the top who are trying to control you. Look up. That's where we should be directing our power.
Well, I've said this. You got it exactly right. And I've said it several different ways, which is why I have my audience is made up of people on what's considered the left and what's considered the right. And they're just divided that way, kind of in a phony way, because they all have the same common interest. So that's the thing that the uppists, the oligarchs, don't want people to realize, that they actually have more in common with their neighbors than they do with the ruling people of their own political party or persuasion. That I have more in common with the MAGA person than I do with Bill Gates or John Kerry or Bill Clinton or the Obamas. Right. And that's the thing. And so they want you to hate your neighbor and blame your neighbor for the pain you're feeling. And, most recently, they wanted the Democrats wanted you to hate the Republicans for the pain you're feeling during COVID because they wouldn't take a vaccine. And that didn't work the way they said it did in the first place. Right. So this is all by design, right? So, and I've often told people, if you find yourself angry at someone lower on the economic ladder than you, it's a good chance you're being manipulated by someone higher on the economic ladder than you, which is the game they play with immigration. I'm so excited to share with you guys an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it's 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega-3. It's pretty simple. Essential nutrients keep our cells healthy, which keep us healthy. If you want to get sciencey about it, studies show that C15 works by strengthening our cells, improving our mitochondrial function, and protecting us against damaging free radicals. The result? Better long-term metabolic, liver, and heart health. Many of us are deficient in C15, which results in weaker cells that makes less energy and quit working earlier than they should. All of that makes us age faster, sleep poorly, feel sluggish. Is this sounding familiar? Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, vegan-friendly, pure C15 supplement. By replenishing our cells with essential C15O nutrient, Fatty 15 essentially repairs our cells and restores our long-term health. Go science. Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Jimmy and using the code Jimmy at checkout. Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohost, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio, and Toronto, Ontario. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.